Hello, everyone, and welcome to Mind Gap Podcast. Thanks for stopping by. If you like what we make here, please do us a huge solid and hit the like and subscribe button down below. We also live stream the podcast every Tuesday at 8 p.m. Central, and I host a video game live stream on Saturdays at 8 p.m. Central, so come by and hang out. If you're feeling extra giving, please check out our Patreon page. The link is in the description below. Thanks for tuning in, and enjoy the show. Mind Gap Podcast. Hey everybody, welcome to Mind Gap Podcast. I'm Doug.
I'm Justin.
And whew, boy, this is a wonderful night. We have some great guests. We're super excited that they're here. I'm stuttering already, so let's just get to it. Please welcome Brian and Daniel from the home team.
What's up? Love that. You know what that sounded like? That sounded like if you guys ever played Halo.
Yeah.
Halo, specifically Halo 3, when there was a skull that you could turn on, the grunt birthday party skull, and every time you headshotted a grunt, confetti would fly out of their body, and it would be like children screaming, "Yay!" Just like that.
I remember that, but that's amazing.
Yep.
It sounded exactly like the same soundbite. It took me back.
And that's why we did it just for you. We don't do that for anybody else. Just for you. We had a feeling that was going to work. So
love that.
Yeah, we're so excited to have you here. This is great. If you haven't heard the home team, what are you doing with your life? I mean, come on.
Also, what are you doing here?
Yeah. Well,
all great questions.
These are great questions, and you're going to get answers to all of this very shortly. So before we get started, I want to run through some quick housekeeping, just a little bit of stuff, and then we're moving on to the main show, which is these two guys. But real quick, if you're new here, welcome. We're glad you're here. We are Mind Gap Podcast. We live stream our episodes on Tuesdays at 8 p.m. Central, and we also do a video game live stream on Saturdays at 8 p.m. Central. So if you like what you see here, hit subscribe. Come join us. We love to hang out and get to know you a little bit more. Also, if you'd like to support us, we have a Patreon. That's just patreon.com/mindgappodcast. Go check it out. We'd love the support. Also, please check out our Discord if you want to check out our Mind Gap community. They're super cool people. Link is in the description down below. You can check out our merch on redbubble.com. And look at that. That's the fastest I've ever done that. Bing, bang, boom. And we're done with it.
It's amazing.
Well done.
Look at that. So, now our stuff's out of the way. Let's turn it over to Brian and Daniel. First of all, for anyone who doesn't know anything about you, please tell everyone who you are. Tell them where they can find you on the socials, where they can support you. Let's run through all that stuff right up top, and we'll do it again on the back end.
Yeah. We are a band called The Home Team from Seattle. We make mostly rock music, but it's got a lot of different influences. And on the Instagram, we are at The Home Team. On Twitter, we are at The Home Team NW. On TikTok, we are at The Home Team _ Couldn't really nail the same thing.
We're working on taking the home team from the 14-year-old kid who had an account 5 years ago that's been inactive.
Yeah.
We're working on that.
Nice.
We also have a Patreon, patreon.com/thehometeam. We did get that one.
We have a new record out on Spotify, 2 full lengths and a couple EPs. We're the home team now. So not the hip hop group. We're the rock.
When you have a generic name, you kind of got to battle for that, right?
Yeah, we won though, so we're the top home team now.
Now we're talking.
We've been battling a lot of Mind the Gap podcasts from the UK. We've had to bump our way up the SEO chain on the old Googles, but yeah, we get that struggle.
Yeah, totally understand.
A lot of NYC subway.
Oh yeah,
exactly.
Yeah, the London Tube, Mind the Gap. Yeah, there's a lot of that sort of stuff. So, yeah, we totally understand. And congratulations on getting all that stuff back. And I hope you get all of those socials under your control.
Yeah. Working on it.
If there's anything anyone listening can do to help you, like bullying a 14-year-old, just let us know during the podcast, and we'll send the troops out.
I might just throttle back a little bit on bullying a 14-year-old. Maybe
Why? What?
I just I don't know.
All right.
We'll cut that out. I don't know.
It seems legit to me. I don't know.
I mean, it's probably happening whether we want it to happen or not. I mean, it's the internet, so.
This isn't live, is it?
So, you all just had an album release in October called Slow Bloom. For the record, I've listened to it multiple times, and this is full-on compliment. Love it. Absolutely love it. It's such a great album. It's really, really good. In particular, I hope you guys are ready for a little bit of some compliments coming your way.
Gosh.
What I really enjoy about the band is, I think the first song I was introduced to was on the previous album, and I'm a huge pop punk fan, like Blink-182 to the day I die. That's my band. But I also, Fall Out Boy with the Wonder Years. Like, if it's pop punk, odds are I'm gonna latch on to it and enjoy it. But I do also enjoy the heavier side of things, like Census Fail, some Tool, things like that. And I feel like reading like an interview from you guys, like, it seems like you have roots in sort of the metal side of stuff, which is really cool because it seems the album is so interesting because every song, some bands, it's like, oh yeah, I see the theme and the through line through everything, but with this, like, every single song is seems very different from the previous one, and I enjoy every single one of them. Like, it's very creative, it's very unique, and I just want to applaud you on being so unique in what you guys create. So well done.
Appreciate it.
Absolutely.
We took a lot of risks and tried a lot of new things on Slow Bloom that we hadn't done before, and a handful of things that we'd never seen another band do before, and feels like it paid off. Feels like people fuck with it. I guess time will tell if people continue liking it.
Could have gone in a lot of different directions.
Well, and that's my musical taste kind of goes all over the board. Doug is much more into the pop. What did you call it specifically?
Pop punk.
Pop punk, yes. But in hearing your first album and then I listened to the second one today. Even for someone who just got introduced to you guys, I could hear a night and day difference between the two albums. And loved the first album. The second one was like butter. I was so drawn to the second album, and I think what it was what you just said, is that it felt like every track had a slightly different. It wasn't. You weren't leaning too far into just this is our sound. You're like, let's fuck around and just make some cool shit, and it came through. It very much came through.
Right
it's funny because from our perspective, we feel like on the second record we honed in on the direction we wanted to go way better than we did on the first record. But a big part of that was trying new things and incorporating new elements that we had never done before. Yeah. So, for instance, I mean, to like take two opposite ends of the spectrum. So we have like the softer songs, Another Night Alone with You, and the acoustic song Sails. And at the same time, we have the song Danger at the end of the album, which has like a guest solo from Jeff Loomis, like generational talent shredder. And we feel like we figured out where we wanted to go. And even though if you listen in the context of the entire album, it all makes sense, at least, to us and our art brand. But if you just place like Sails right next to Danger, they make no sense.
Which is exactly what we did on the album.
Exactly.
Interesting.
But that was intentional.
But with our first record, Better Off, we feel like way more disjointed because it was literally written by like 4 different people. Mm-hmm. So the way we approached the first record was like, okay, Brian wrote a song. Our bassist wrote a couple songs. Our other guitarist that is no longer in the band wrote a song. Mm-hmm. John wrote like 5 songs. Our current guitarist, our only guitarist, I guess. So it would be like someone writes most of a song, they bring it to me on drums, and then we like figure out, add the drums, figure out the structure a little bit, and then bring it to Brian to like bring it to the next level and add vocals. Mm-hmm. But most of the songs were just like pretty much fully written by one person. Yeah. And there were different people for all of them. If we were to explain like which ones were written by which person, it's very clear that there's like this group of songs. But with Slow Bloom, we took a totally different approach to writing everything. It was Brian, actually, what was it? Move It or Lose It. That was the first song.
Mostly John writing the skeleton and me having a little bit of a bigger hand in the beginning. process of writing the songs as opposed to just when my vocals come into play.
Sure.
John started pretty much every song. He made the skeleton of pretty much every song on this newest record. But him and I used to be at really creative odds, and now we get along a lot better creatively because I think we kind of just realize the value that the other person brings to the table.
Interesting.
I love that.
Previously, it was like I wanted to make everything super complicated, and he wanted to make everything super simple. That can either be at odds with each other, or it can work really well together. Because he can make the backbone in a really simple but effective like chord progression, and then I can come in and add all the frilly shit, like all the top layer stuff. And so that this time we worked together a lot more, and that's why I think it did end up being a little more cohesive. But a good way to think about it is like, think of it like on a tree or a chart, and the skeletons of all the Better Off songs were all over here, and then me and Daniel had to glue them together. On this album, the skeletons all started here, but then we intentionally brought them in different directions. So that's a good visualization of how I think about this album.
And because we tried so many new things, it's really easy for like watching all your friends get rich is a great example. That's definitely one of the like more I don't know, flowery is the right way to use it, but like the whole thing's in a major key. The horns give it a sense, like I don't know if circusy is the right term, but like give it a completely different feel than like Right Through Me, which is a much darker song. So even though we approached them in like very much the same way, and the writing process was the same and our intent was the same, the last little bits we added to make the song really pop were like
far more diverse.
Yeah, exactly. So like Watching All Your Friends Get Rich has the horns section. Right Through Me has exactly just tons of production on the back end. Right Through Me has like that really low sub bass at the beginning, like the really clubby sounding intro. So like even though if you were to break it down instrumentally, pretty similar, though those things that you add at the end bring the song in like totally different directions.
Yep, that's how I feel about the
That's so cool because I am at best a hobbyist when it comes to making music. For a while there, I was all I wanted to do was I went to college, and in college I was like the radio station person, had my radio show. I was just so into music. I taught myself to play guitar and some other things, and then I went to grad school for music business. I was like, I'm going to start my own label. I'm going to do all these things, and then I want to be a producer first, but then I realized I suck at music theory. So if someone's playing something and I don't know how to coach them on it, probably not going to work out. So I moved into music supervision, so clearing stuff for movies and things like that. I did a couple of independent films, which was really cool, but I've never fully understood the creative process with writing a song. And I don't know, I'm always just like, tell me more. It's like listen to comedians talk shop about how they write comedy. I'm like, I don't know how this works. Tell me more. Sure. And I just love hearing, because like, Brian, you were saying just the creative, odds, being at creative odds with each other. Like, what's it like to either be given something that someone else has created and then you're adding to it, or you have created something and you have most of it and you hand it to someone else, and what's it like to kind of give that piece away or receive that piece? Is it weird to have someone build on it or to tweak it? Is it weird to tweak someone else's? And I'm assuming the relationship has to be pretty tight for you to be like, I'm handing you this piece of me, please be good, but at the same time, let's make it great. Like, what's that like?
Sure. I obviously have a lot more experience with the former, which is the receiving and then putting my own stuff on top. And honestly, I do have to say that a lot of what I create is only as good as what I am given. I cannot make gold out of a shitty song. And there have been times where this happened a lot more. In fact, it actually didn't happen at all during Slow Bloom. I think every song that John gave me, I was like, this is fire. But during Better Off, there were 2 or 3 songs that he gave me, and I really tried to write to them. I'm not even going to say that they were bad songs, but nothing was flowing. I literally just couldn't think of anything that I liked. I thought of stuff, but I didn't like it. I didn't think that it was very good. And so I'm not a magician. Everything that I create is just as good as what I'm given. And so that's why it's been really fun to kind of grow as musicians together, just because, if you have one person in the band that's kind of lacking on what they do and somebody else who's really just carrying all the weight, that's not fun at all. It can be fun if everyone's lacking and it's just a laid back, it's just a laid back project, right? And you guys don't really have a lot of goals and you're just like, I just want to play music, right? That's right. Cool. That's like, do that. But at the same time, if everyone's on their shit, that's where we're at now. It's like, that's exactly what we were looking for. And so, Daniel and I, and John included, come from bands where we had to drag people through the mud. And so
my back still hurts from my last band.
From carrying it. And it was one of those things that was like, we wanted people that also had the same vision as us. So as far as having people write on top of what I give them, the best experience that I have with that is probably going to a producer. And previously we went to a producer here in Seattle named Aaron, who's really, really great at what he does. And he did our old EP, and then he also did the acoustic songs that we did after Better Off.
Cool.
And then he also tracked us for Slow Bloom. We ended up having somebody else mix it, but he tracked us, and he's a really great engineer as far as his music brain goes. He's an incredibly intelligent musician. He has a very metal background, which is why his mixes always come out sounding metal, and that's not super what we were looking for, which is why we had somebody else mix it. But he's fantastic in his own respect. My point is, he is super hands-on when it comes to producing. There are producers that are hands-off, like they just want to let you do what you're doing. He is hands-on. He will tell you his ideas. He will tell you like what he thinks about parts, and that's what we were looking for a long, long time. We were looking for somebody to say like, this is good, this is bad. Try and do this. Try and do that. This time though, we brought in an actual producer. It was Sky Accord from Issues, the bassist.
And 21 Pilots now.
And now
that's probably what we should brag about now.
Now we should say the bassist of 21 Pilots. But so Sky served a producer role and Aaron served an engineer role, but really they were both offering ideas. And Sky just understood our vision to a T. Like he knew exactly what we were going for and he totally elevated it and it was phenomenal. But both of them, that they are both a really good example of instances where I have had people like tell me what they think of what I brought them, in a really critical way. Like obviously John and Daniel and Ryan will tell me if they don't like something, but to be honest, we all kind of stick within our realms as far as like what we're good at. And so we're not usually nitpicking the other person, which I think is a really good thing. Sure. Because I'd rather have a producer who's considering all the elements be the one who's nitpicking.
Also, as much as like one huge aspect that Brian didn't mention is you have to have like creative respect for everyone that you're working with, because I'm sure we've all, Brian, I'm sure this has happened to you too. We've all been in bands where musicians didn't respect each other, and so one person writes something, someone says, wants to make a change, and the other person just says, "Fuck you, this is my song."
Yeah.
And that it is, unless you are a god tier songwriter, like
and a proven god tier songwriter,
like if Tosin Abathi from Animals as Leaders says, "Fuck you, this is how my song is going,"
you're like, all right, you're good. Yeah, you know what?
It's fine.
You know what you're talking about.
You write your song the way you're going to write your song because you're going to make millions.
Yeah.
Beyonce says, "No, this is how my song's going to go." Right. Don't really question her.
I'm going to trust your instincts.
Yeah. Right. But when you're in a band and you're on the way up, if you don't all respect each other, it is very difficult to get things done. We found like just a really strong mutual respect that we all want to get to the same place. We had very few serious arguments while recording this record.
We had a couple.
But they're like things now looking back. If we'd have to sit down and point out the things we were arguing about and like really explain, and the average listener probably would be
like, I don't even notice a difference between
That's always the way it goes too, is the things that you're nitpicking over are the things that probably at the end of the day, your average listener, the person the people who are really going to be consuming it in volume are going to be like, okay, that's cool that you guys were so careful about this one thing, but it sounds good either way to me. I like it. Yeah.
Yeah.
But
I am glad we were careful because at the end of the day, it's our art, and the most important thing, in my opinion, is that we like it.
absolutely.
And it is an accurate representation of us as artists, which is actually one of the reasons why we like Slow Bloom so much more than Better Off's, because I don't think Better Off was an accurate representation. It was a good album, but it wasn't accurate.
Yeah,
Slow
and you
Bloom
can. was accurate. The slow. There's just something that when again listening to the two side by side over the last few days, like there's a different feeling I get when I listen to Slow Bloom, and like every track on there just hit in a different way. And again, not that the first one wasn't good, but the second, what you guys did in the second one, I definitely think you've locked into where you're going, or that artistic voice, which is so. It doesn't matter what you're doing. If you're a painter, a musician, a writer, or whatever, finding your voice is such a hard task, and when you click into it, it's noticeable. Everyone.
I mean, you can say the first one wasn't good. You're not going to hurt our feelings.
You're not going to hurt our feelings.
No, it's
Like,
We know where we're at now.
I will not pull punches, I promise you. But I did like the first one. I think there's a definite difference in the second one though, for sure.
And as a band too, something that people just don't. People would have no reason to know this unless you asked us about it. A lot of the songs on Better Off were a collection of songs written between 2013 and 2017. So like we've been working on stuff that had been sitting in Google Drive for years, even before Brian joined the band. And so it's a lot of it comes from different inspirations, not really knowing where we wanted to take the band. How, I'm sure there's a song or two on there from the other guys that aren't in the band anymore that they had in their pockets since like college, and they just finally found the band to play that riff with.
Right.
Versus everything we did on Slow Bloom was like we wrote that while we were writing Slow Bloom with our inspirations right now and like our taste right now. And also, Brian, cover your ears for this part. One of the other major things is like when we recorded Better Off, Brian, you were what, 21? 20?
2016 is when I turned 21, so yeah.
Yeah, so we recorded it in 2016 and 2017. So Brian was like a musician who had a good sounding voice and had sung for a little bit.
Not to mention, I didn't begin with singing. I started with guitar. And I spent way more time with guitar in my previous band. So I didn't really like seriously start singing until I joined.
Yeah. And then after Better Off, there's 3 years of touring and singing every day and honing his craft and physically like growing and maturing too, because vocal cords are a muscle. Right. So like you're literally growing as a human. So listening to just the demos from the Slow Bloom process, it's, for me as just a fan of Brian, it's crazy hearing the growth and like the amount of control. Like you can tell it went from being a kid who could, who was singing and had a good voice to like, oh, this guy's like the real deal.
A singer, a lead singer. Yeah.
I got my golden ticket. I know what I got. So you could like literally went from a like basically a kid to an adult who can really fucking sing and knows how to control his voice and what he's doing. So even in just the demos, like you can just hear that the person singing there was not the person singing on the final version of Better Off.
Sure.
Which I can add to that. Even
I'm
when I
fucking
was
sick.
Well, actually, more so when I was recording Better Off, I even knew that my voice wasn't where I wanted it.
Sure.
Yeah, it was one of those things that like, so the guy that we recorded with, Casey Bates, was phenomenal to record with, but he was very efficient, and we sped through a lot of stuff. Not in a super detrimental way. In fact, if anything, sometimes I think it was a benefit, because the more and more I harped on one part or got too picky, the worse, like the more tired my voice would probably get. Because I remember being significantly more exhausted after those recording days than after the Slow Bloom recording days. And yeah, even in Better Off, I didn't think that my voice was where I wanted it. I don't think I ever told anybody that because I didn't want to seem, not confident. Because at the time it was still the best that it had ever been, right?
Right. Perspective, right?
That was the best I could do. So, having the 3 years of touring, honestly, like any vocalist out there, you want to know how to become good at vocals? Fucking tour. That shit will put you through the ringer.
Go sing every night.
Especially if your material requires a lot of oxygen and a lot of breath, and if it's high, and if you're moving around a lot. If you play in a rock band and you want to be a better singer, do 10 DIY tours. That's what it'll take.
I love that.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's and again, I don't know. I've heard sometimes this is kind of rude to tell musicians, but I'm going to do it because it's coming from a good place. When I hear you sing, it reminds me a lot of Brendan Urie from Panic at the Disco, and I think he's a tremendous vocalist. I think you are a tremendous vocalist as well. And
thanks.
I was, when we got you guys agreed to come on here, and my wife came in. I'm like, hey, check, listen to these guys. They're going to be on here. She goes, sounds like Panic at the Disco. I'm like, that's a compliment, and I'm going to share that.
I think so.
Good.
Oh, we sound like a band that makes a living playing music. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's fine.
Cool.
That's cool.
Because I know some bands are like, hey, I sound like me. I don't sound like these other folks. So I didn't want to assign anything to you, but it had some vibes. I was like, you sound like a very talented. To hear you speak about where you were and where you've come, I can tell that you've worked on it, and it sounds really good. So
You sound like a talented Brandon Urie.
shit.
He's good.
No, I love Panic at the Disco. I'm just fucking
That's amazing.
Yeah. So what's funny about his voice? This is just a little funny anecdote, but I have been compared to him for years, even since I started, and I think it has to do with like a rounded timbre in the voice as opposed to like a more crisp, shrill one. I think it's a more rounded voice, and over time, my voice has become less and less of that rounded, like thick sound.
Mm-hmm.
Like when I was hearing recordings of me singing 10 years ago when I was in high school, it's so thick and round that it's not even pleasurable to listen to, in my opinion. And so that's what he sounded like at the beginning. He had that really thick, rounded out voice. And then I started to get a little more of my higher, like head voice mixed in with my voice, and started being able to belt more and be more clear and crisp. And I was like really excited. I was like, oh man, I'm starting to sound less and less like Brandon Urie. And then he did the exact same thing. All of his new stuff, he's like projecting like crazy. It's operatic, and he's so good. And it's just hilarious because now if anybody was comparing my old voice to Brandon Urie, it was to Fever You Can't Sweat Out. And now when they compare my voice to Brandon Urie, it's to High Hopes.
Yeah, which, I mean, not bad, right?
Yeah, right. I'm definitely not complaining, but
yeah.
I know what my voice sounds like. So
Good. That's all that matters. You guys mentioned touring. I don't know if this has happened to you yet, but I think about some of these bands that have been around, forever, and the idea of them touring and playing the same songs over and over and over again. I can only imagine that after a long time, I don't know, do the songs get on your nerves? Has that happened to you yet? Where you're like, we got to play this one again because everyone loves it or they need to hear it. Does that ever happen to you?
I mean, there's two sides to this. One, I want to play the new stuff. Like, it's exciting and new, and it satisfies like our art side. Two, if there was a song if we became a one-hit wonder and there was a song that made us a living, I'd play for 3 minutes every night, the same thing. That's fine. Anybody that I feel like it's a very privileged, very douchey thing to complain about a song that you've been able to retire off of. That's really frustrating as a musician trying to make it, hearing big artists complain about a song that they retired from.
Right.
I get it. I'm sure AC/DC is tired of playing Highway to Hell and Back in Black, but I mean, they can do whatever they want in life because they wrote songs that people like. So
they each
I'd
have
be cool
7
with
houses because of it.
Yeah, I would be fine if She's Quiet was the thing that made us a ton of money, or that's the intro song for a lot of people to get to us. I'll play that every night. It's 3.5 minutes of our lives. That's fine with me.
I think another thing to put into perspective is when you consider somebody's like normal job, like let's say like working at an Amazon fulfillment center. Do you think those people aren't sick of packing packages for 10 hours a day, for 6 days a week? You can play a fucking 3-minute song for your 7 houses, goddammit.
Right, exactly.
Like, put it into perspective.
I mean, there's kind of like a life cycle of a song, and as the band progresses and your set length like increases, or it changes from thing to thing. So like the perfect example I can think of is I saw a metal band called Impending Doom. At this point it's probably like 8 years ago, but at the time they had like 4 albums out, and they were playing I think second of 4 on a tour. It was like first or second, and they were like an established band. They'd pack out rooms on their own, but they were opening for another band, so they had a 25-minute set list. They played 6 songs. They played the big single from the first one, big single from the second record, 2 big singles from the third, 2 big singles from the most recent one. And the set was insane. It was killer. They played 6 songs. Great. Everybody loved it. I'm sure they made a bunch of money. Great for them. I'm sure they would have liked to have played all new songs from the new album, but they'll get that chance when they do their headliner. So like, as much like we have a couple support tours coming up, and there's songs on the record that we would love to play, but realistically we have a time constraint. So like we have to build our set with that in mind, knowing that the goal of this set is to play to new fans that have never heard us before, fans of the other bands, show them the best stuff we have, reel them in so that they become fans and we like expand our fan base so that when we come back again, we can play more songs from the new stuff that we want to play.
And this is a perfect example is the fact that we are probably going to cut my favorite live song from our set.
Oh, no.
On.
Oh, yeah. So, yeah.
On is one of our favorite songs as a band, but it is not one of the crowd favorites.
It is the lowest streaming song on the record, which we disagree with.
Other than Sales. It barely passed Sales.
Did it?
Barely passed Sales.
Okay.
All right, everyone, you know what to do. All right, let's make these guys happy. Let's start streaming the song on so that these guys can feel like they can play it live. Let's get to it, all right?
It's going to become a headlining tour song where we get the section to play whatever we want.
Right.
Yeah.
We're going to switch it out for a more popular song. Y'all can guess what that is. We're not going to say it.
For the record, several folks are saying that Real World is going to be a retirement song. That's what they're saying in the chat. So
that is
it Kristen that's saying that?
Or the Kirsty Crab?
Kristen did start it, and then other people did pile on. So yes.
Avery, yeah. A bunch of people are agreeing with it, yeah.
So the little backstory. First of all, Real World is a song that we like never played live until this last tour. And the only reason we ever played it live, we only played it at 2 shows on this last tour. One of them, Real World is a favorite among our Patreon community. And the Phoenix show of this last tour was a big Patreon meetup. People flew in from different states, and they said, this is the show we're all going to go to. It was a blast. It was really fun to be able to meet a lot of new people and see people that we've met before again. And I was on stage. We were finishing out the set. The backtrack of Watching All Our Friends Get Rich at the end of our set was playing in the background. We took a picture with the crowd, and then I received a bouquet of yellow roses and asparagus. It is an inside joke in the Discord. I don't really feel like going into it. It's
like that's a traditional gift to give,
Yeah.
And it does in Phoenix shows.
Yeah, there was a little note that said, "We love you guys," and then it opened up and said, "Play Real World." So you would think, based on our botched performance, that we did not expect that. We actually did expect that, and we did run through it during soundcheck in Phoenix. We still messed it up, but we had never played it live before that tour. So
that's something I don't think people realize. We're like, hey, play this song. We're like, we haven't practiced that. Like, probably not a good idea.
We knew that was going to happen. Real World is a fantastic song in its own right, but it was kind of one of the sore thumbs of Better Off. What's funny is that I think it's actually more like our new sound than most of the Better Off songs.
Yeah, it would probably fit in. Which, funny story about Real World. I don't know if all the Patreon people that are watching this are gonna appreciate this. I don't know if we've ever talked about this, but that was one of the songs that John and I got into a pretty big argument about having on the record. My perspective was I thought the song was so good that we were wasting it putting it on our debut album because it wasn't going to get the attention that it deserved.
Which is exactly what happened.
That is what happened. So I thought that song was like basically like radio quality, and that could be a thing that is like a one-hit wonder situation. Like I had very high hopes for that song. John's perspective was we need to put this on the record to show people what we can do and like what we're capable of doing, basically.
Best foot forward, if you will.
Yeah, it made it on the record.
It is a sleeper song.
It is
a lot of people got really into it, despite the fact that we didn't promote it at all. Like we didn't do a music video for it. It wasn't a single, mainly because it was a contentious song in our circle, and we had other songs that were a little more like our sound and a little more digestible. And so, although I say that, but Real World is like the most digestible song I can think of. It's man, very easy to listen.
We have no idea what the fuck we're doing.
We just put a bunch of shit out and see what sticks.
The opening track on Slow Bloom, Move It or Lose It.
I thought that was going to be the fucking one, baby.
It was basically like Slow Bloom or Right Through Me and Move It or Lose It were like 1 and 2. We weren't sure which one was going to be the crowd favorite. But so we ended up dropping those as the first 2 singles.
Right Through Me blew me out of the water.
It's not even close. Like people, the fans know Move It or Lose It, but like people who aren't really fans of the band know Right Through Me.
Yeah.
So like that song is blown Move It or Lose It out of the water, and it's the first Move It or Lose It's the first track on the record. So position wise,
it has a bump.
Yeah, it should be the track that gets played the most because people hear it first. But that is not the case, and we don't know what we're doing.
Isn't that's got to be amazing, right? Like this is gonna be the one. This is gonna be the one that's gonna do it, and then it's just.
Hey, we were just talking about On.
Right?
On, we were like, dude, people are going to go fucking nuts when they hear this song.
to us, like, I used to envision, before we went on tour, I envisioned the lead up to the drum only intro, and then we had some extra stuff in the tracks that were only going to be there and weren't on the record. And I would like get goosebumps in the shower thinking about this thing, and we'd start playing it and people were like,
yay. Swing beat. Yay.
Yeah, nobody knows this. It's all right. We do have a theory though that that's the song that is actually ahead of
our fans' time. Since We All Fell Apart was the last song, was the album, or Jesus Christ, the song on the previous album that was like that. We thought that was going to be the one.
Yeah.
And that one sounds the most, other than Fashion Forward, that song sounds the most like our new album, sound wise. And it did not do well at all. Like She's Quiet was what did really well.
Which we actually didn't even do a music video for She's Quiet because we were like, yeah, whatever, it's gonna be a
the ballad
song.
Right.
So Turns out that is by far and away the most popular song.
Yeah. Anyways, Since We All Fell Apart, we ended up doing an entire new album that sounds more like that song, and now everybody loves it. I think what's going to happen is our next album is going to sound more like On, and everybody's going to go fucking nuts because they're going to be ready for it.
You kept them. You planted that seed.
Yep.
Yeah.
Exactly.
We're going to have one song on every album that precedes the next album.
I love it. The thing that I think a lot of people forget, too, when they try to get into the music business is that second word. I think that's such an operative word, the business side of it. And like you guys, just hearing you talk right now, even though you say we have no fucking idea what we're doing, obviously you guys put a shit ton of thought into the business side of this. And I think that is extremely commendable because there's art. We were talking a little off mic, I think off mic, maybe on mic. I don't remember. Anyway, was being able to, as an artist, to monetize or to have a business mind about the art that you're making. A lot of people feel like it's dirty or it's gross or you're not being true to your art or you've sold out or whatever the fuck. But you guys, I definitely think that you need that second word. If you're in the music business, that's key, and you've got to think that way. And you've got to have, even if you're like, we're going to try this and it crashes and burns, at least you thought of a plan and now you can pivot the next time you put an album out. Like you learn from what didn't work last time.
I mean, the truth is, bands are basically content creators, but the main content you put out is the music. And when we're on tour, we're just a traveling T-shirt company with elaborate, pop-up shops. That's really all it is. Because there's way more money to be made in clothing sales than there is in any other part of being in a band. We're just in a different time now than we were 20 years ago. The days of bands getting $200,000-$300,000 advances to go do records and just live on label money is gone. That doesn't exist. That's just not how it is.
Unless you're huge.
I mean, unless you're massive, but they still are finding other ways to make money.
Right.
It's all about like finding the 20 different ways you can monetize the band and building the whole thing up together. So like merch, gigantic.
Merch is number one for sure.
I think on our last tour, we probably made 10 times as much money on merch as we did on door money. That's just how it is. Patreon has been a huge thing for us. Also, actually, to take a step back, there are a lot of bands that basically live by the traditional model of, okay, we're going to record some music, we're going to release it, we're going to go on tour, and we're going to sell stuff to people. Then we're going to come home after the touring cycle is done, start writing the next album, and repeat. And that totally worked for a lot of bands for a long time. COVID completely changed that. And who knows what touring is going to look like in the future. I'm starting to see people and other bands on Twitter basically saying like, touring's fucked and things are just going to go back to lockdown or tours are just going to be constantly canceled over and over again. And so the reality is you have to be able to find other ways to engage your fan base and to put it bluntly, you have to find other ways to make money because as much as we love the art side of doing it, we can't continue to do the art side if we're not finding a way to make money as a band. And that can be really challenging. When COVID hit, we were very fortunate that we were at the end of an album cycle anyway. And we were about to, I remember literally sitting at the end of the last tour. We were in like a Planet Fitness parking lot, like 1 a.m, taking showers, waiting for everyone to come back to the van. And I just told Brian and John, like, we got to be ready to like not really tour next year because we have to write this album. And, we're probably not going to get any tour opportunities because we're at the end of the album cycle. Just happened to work out that there was no touring anyway. Mm-hmm. And then that really gave us the ability to pivot and start doing more video content. We started the Patreon that we've been talking about for a while, but hadn't really taken the steps to get it set up. Patreon ended up being a huge motivator to pump out content and to engage with fans that we didn't know were we didn't know they fucked with us as much as they did. That's the truth of it. So on top of being a boost for us to actually get sit down and start producing the content and show people the steps along the way, it was a big confidence booster, showing okay, we are really building something here. We thought it was going to be 10 or 20 people, and we're up to 100, over 100 now.
Congratulations.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
And thank you. It's we didn't think we were going to get here.
Not this quick, at least.
Yeah. So it ended up being a big confidence booster too, of saying oh, people actually do like what we're doing and they want to help support us. So time to, fucking hit it and get this record out.
That's amazing. And for the record, folks are saying, they would gladly be down for an Only Dan's account, daily Dan pics, that's apparently what the chat is saying. So, they're.
I can run that so he doesn't have to keep doing selfies.
I'm just saying, you looking to monetize, let's monetize all of it. There you go.
I hear him get up at 3 a.m. to go get a bowl of cereal. I'll just creep around the corner and just take a picture of him in his underwear eating cereal. That'll be
there we go.
Cereal Dan.
Right.
There was actually a series called Cereal with Dan for a little while.
back when we were really struggling to find ways to produce content. I should bring that shit back.
You should bring that shit back.
People fuck with it.
Patreon only, baby.
Apparently, they want more
live
Wet
streams at 1
Dan
in the morning.
too.
Yeah, Wet Dan has been mentioned a lot in the chat.
What's Wet Dan?
What's Dan? What's
Should we
going on
just
with Wet
explain
Dan?
every weird? We should probably just explain every weird.
Well, these are the inside jokes that come from the Patreon Discord community.
You're looking at it. We did a photo shoot in LA when we were filming the Right Through Me and Move It or Lose It videos.
If you saw the video for Slow Bloom, there's a scene where Brian is singing in a rain room. We also did some pictures in there.
Yep.
And there's a couple really goofy ones, and I am wet.
And I made a shot as a joke. I took just a clip of his face. I think it was like a face or something like that. Oh, no, it was sharper than that. It was like,
Was it the one? I don't even remember what it was. Maybe I had my hand on John's pregnant belly.
that was a good one too.
Yeah.
But I made a react in our Discord, and everybody could just put the Wet Dan, and I labeled it Wet Dan, and then it just exploded from there. Everybody was cracking up about Wet Dan.
That is fucking amazing.
That's incredible.
And
I
then
mean, just from the small, like tipping our toes into the Patreon community have here. I love them all. You have some great fans here. I love all of you here. You're amazing. I love the inside jokes. Justin and I are trying to do something similar with our podcast. We're just slowly building a little community of folks, and it's been really cool, especially in the pandemic. It's been our way to sort of like connecting more, which is weird for me. I was at this training the other day for work, and they're like, "How are you feeling during the pandemic?" And I was like, "Connected." And they're like, "Huh?" I was like, "This is the most connected I've ever been." Because people are all at home and they can play games with me. So I'm feeling I have more connections and friends than ever. I have friends.
That's awesome. That's so dope.
Damn it. Just the way that we've approached the band. I come from like the business side of things is what's always really excited me. And that's been the thing that like I've always just, even since I was in high school, like I remember sitting like Friday and Saturday nights, I'd be like doing merch inventory and rolling t-shirts in front of the TV, at home. So like that side of things has always been the thing that I felt I was good at and that I really enjoyed. Obviously the art music side, that too, but like the thing that I know that I really bring is like the how to run the band and how to do all the behind the scenes stuff, the exciting shit like doing, paying sales tax and, sending out our W-9 to everyone.
So important though, right? It's so important.
Exactly.
Like you've got to know that stuff. And no one talks about that when you're starting a band, right? Should we be an LLC? Should we be a sole prop? Like what do we do?
And we waited as long as possible to become an LLC, right?
Yeah, I was
year one.
I was running all of the band money through my own personal bank account with an Excel spreadsheet for a long time. And they had trust and confidence that I was not embezzling the hundreds of dollars we would make for myself.
The whole hundreds.
Wow. Like I feel like I need a practical Dan on one shoulder because I have a practical Doug on the other, and I feel like practical Dan and practical Doug would get along really well as we move through things. Because
remember to file your quarterly sales tax.
See, this guy gets it.
This is the sexy side of rock and roll right here.
Do you guys know there's different taxes based on the state that you perform in? Ooh.
Right?
God, do you have tax?
Let me tell you about
Nexus in
spreadsheets.
Illinois this month?
Oh, yeah. Oh, we're going to Illinois. Let's see what those tax rates are going to be.
Pillow
That's
Talk
amazing.
here on Mind Gap Podcast.
So you guys have talked a little bit about touring. You guys just finished a tour. You've got another tour coming up. Are you guys excited for it?
Oh yeah, we are
Nice.
very excited for it.
We have been working for years to get to the point where we get the opening slot on bigger tours. In 2019, we opened 4 dates for Don Broco's first U.S. headliner.
Oh, sweet.
And that was like
It was
that-
a dream.
literally a dream come true. That was like the best thing that had ever happened to the band. And we only got to play 4 of those dates.
They were packed,
Still,
but
you
it
know.
It was fucking sick.
and we met a lot of new fans. Like we made a lot of new fans on that tour.
But they made a mistake. They put our name on the flyer for the whole thing, It said that with an asterisk that we were only playing the first 4 dates, but not everybody knew that. So we still got throughout the entire tour got lots of people being like, "Oh, I missed your set." And I'm like, "Yeah, you did. Just catch us next time."
You already, without doing minimal work, you're like, "Cool, we'll see you the next time we come into this market." Because that's how you got to talk about it. What's your biggest market, Dan? What's the market you perform the best in, Dan?
Ooh, on the last tour, actually Sacramento, we had the most people. Seattle, we would have had more, but we picked a small venue so that we could sell it out.
Nice.
So our hometown show sold out, and the next one we do will be at like the next size up venue. But like Salt Lake, Phoenix, and Sacramento.
Those are 3 really good ones.
Are probably the 3, the 3 best markets for us.
Sometimes they can be better than Seattle. Sometimes.
Wow.
This time around, it wasn't the case. Seattle
That's pretty cool. You guys ever make your way out to Chicago?
I was gonna say I gotta ask a burning question. Why is that on the tour?
We're playing
February 13th.
Or is it
14th?
No, I think it's the 15th because or it's the day after the Super Bowl, I think. Yeah. So maybe it's the 14th.
This website needs to get updated because I do not see that on here.
Oh yeah, it's
Chicago, Illinois, February 14th.
Valentine's Day.
Valentine's. Oh, sexy.
Yeah, I was like, I didn't see that on here. What the shit? But now that's there. Yeah. Okay, good to know.
So interesting for the business mind. For the position that we're in now, where we're like the opening band, we have 0 say and no input whatsoever on where these tours go.
And honestly, it's kind of nice.
It is the first time. Every tour, with the exception of the 4 Don Broco dates, every tour we've done was booked by me and our booking agent.
It's a lot of work.
Yeah, even this last tour. I booked my first tour in like 2011, maybe 2010 on MySpace. Like that's when I started booking tours, which nobody knows this, but MySpace was the sickest for bands and for booking tours. Because you could go to the music section and look up bands by city and by genre, and there would just be a infinite list ranking them by like number of plays or number of friends.
And you could just hit them up.
And you could,
I'm booking a tour,
dude. You can message them directly on MySpace. I booked my first tour for my deathcore band that no one gave a fuck about. We had no reason to be touring. Just straight off of just hitting up every band I could find, being like, "Yo, I'll book you a show in Seattle if you book me a show in Phoenix." Same concept applies to now. Only some people care about us, and we've developed relationship with promoters. So like, now I can just hit up the promoter and they'll work with us. Not the case 5 years ago when we were trying to make anyone care.
It sounds like a nightmare, honestly, logistical nightmare, and I commend anyone who's doing it. So
I can't believe MySpace was that beneficial to bands. It was like a hidden feature that no one else needed outside of bands on MySpace.
Or if you were a music fan looking up bands in your area,
sure.
You could also just look at like the entire United States. So you could go and like just select, world or US or whatever and do like, pop punk. Top 50 bands, and it would start at Fall Out Boy, Panic! At the Disco, and work its way down.
Yeah.
But you could use that same tool for finding bands in other areas, and there's nothing like it now. It was amazing. I'm sure if MySpace existed now, they would have a way to monetize that. Like, I would pay when we were just like strictly DIY and we had no team behind us or anything. I'd fucking pay a subscription for that like forever.
Worth it.
Oh shit! There's a new business idea. How do I take?
There's a market for it now. Got to get some developers on this shit.
Make it happen. Make an app.
Next great app. Let's get it.
Let's do it, baby. Monetize.
I've always been curious for Doug and I kind of came up together in the improv scene in Chicago, and before we would go out and do shows, most improvisers have like a pre-show ritual or what they do backstage to get themselves hyped and things like that. You've heard in interviews, the Foo Fighters have one of my favorite pre-show rituals that they do, and to get yourselves hyped to come on stage, quench the nerves or quiet the nerves or anything, what do you guys do? What is the ritual to get you out there and pumped?
So mine is far less mental and far more physical.
Okay.
Obviously, I have to warm up quite a bit because I'm a vocalist and I'm singing at the top of my lungs. But one thing that I do that has helped me for years, I think I've been doing this since like 2017. Is I go for a run before every show. It does a lot. So there's a couple main things. Opens up my lungs. That's a big one. Just because it gives me a little bigger lung capacity. And sometimes I'll sing on the run. I won't sing super loud, but I'll just like start like warming up. And then a couple other things that it does is, let's say I ate 3 hours ago and as opposed to 4 hours ago, and I'm still at the tail end of my digestion, and I'm still like feeling just a little bit of gassiness. I will burp and fart on the run and not on stage.
Doug, so you need to go for a run before we do the
I don't
podcast.
like running, Justin. You know this. All right?
Yes, but you're losing weight. It's going to get easier for you. And also, we have to find a way for you to stop burping mid-sentence on the podcast.
No, I refuse. It's part of our charm.
It's Doug's trademark move.
If you're eating or drinking during the podcast, then running will not do anything for you.
See, Justin, running, this is what I hear. Running will not do anything for you. That's all I need to know. That's all I need to hear.
Selective fucking hearing.
You said it. Clip it.
The third thing, I guess, is a little mental. It does make me feel better. I feel clearer. I often also I don't know if I do have any nervous energy for the show. I don't really get nervous for a lot of shows anymore, but there are a couple that if it's like a big deal show, then I'll get a little bit nervous, and it'll definitely cool me down a little bit. I'll feel just a little more level-headed. Yeah, I generally just feel a lot better when I work out and exercise in general.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's there's a lot of benefits to doing it. I'm honestly confused why more musicians that play in rock don't do that, or at the very least don't do some sort of physical warm-up. Like, yes, vocal warm-ups is a thing, guitar warm-ups is a thing, drum warm-ups is a thing, but also like physically warming up the rest of your body, because I feel like performing is such a physical, endurance-based thing that
Sure.
If you're not warming up, A, you could hurt yourself. B, it's going to take you a couple songs to get into it, and then you've sacrificed the beginning of your set. And I don't know. Everybody's different. That's just what works for me.
Yeah, honestly, I don't do any sort of drum warm up beforehand. I just like literally as I'm sitting on stage waiting for the very beginning while we're getting everything set up, I'll just like tap on my legs a little bit. The physical warm up is a much more important thing. And now I understand why all my coaches growing up made us warm up beforehand. I didn't get it until I became an adult and started to literally feel the difference. Like, once you get the blood flowing in your hands, I have just notoriously cold hands. And so if your hands and arms are literally cold, it's hard to just do everything correctly. So I'll go jog a little bit. If there's a big enough space, like in the back room or somewhere, I'll just like run, kind of like suicides back and forth, jumping jacks, push-ups, whatever in whatever space I have, do some sort of exercise just to like get my blood pumping and get my hands like warm. And then once I can basically feel the blood like flow, once I can feel the blood flowing in my veins,
once my heart starts up and I have blood in my veins again.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Once I can feel like the blood starting to pump, then I know that I'm like physically ready and like capable of playing. Without doing that, I just suck for the first couple songs, and there's really no amount of like you'd have with drum warm-ups. I'd have to literally accomplish the same amount of playing to warm my full body up, but sitting there playing on a pad doesn't really warm my hands up. So I get a much bigger benefit out of like running and doing jumping jacks basically.
That's awesome. That's so important too. I agree. Like, for the longest time, when I was growing up too, I'd be like, cool, let's go lift weights. And I just walk in and lift weights. And I guess back then you could get away with that. But now as a 38-year-old man, I'm like, no, we must stretch for 20 minutes. We must walk 3 miles before, and then we can commence with the lifting because my body will hate me. if I just walk in and be like, ha ha, no, that's not a good idea. So
no, just man, sucks. Yeah, getting old sucks.
Yeah, it's
you
not
get
fun.
hurt. It takes forever to recover. Stupid. I have also stretching is a big part of that. Also stretching right before. Personally, I get nervous before I do anything. So I'm nervous before every show. That has never changed. That'll never go away, I don't think, for me. But it's like a nervous energy. It's like a positive thing. I know it's going to happen, so it's fine.
That's good.
It's not an.
Go ahead, please.
It's not like an apprehensious or like anxiety driven. It's more like just I'm fucking ready.
Like I'm about to do the thing. The thing's about to happen. I got to go do stuff, and then once you start, it's fine.
Yeah. Well, there's an element, I think, of excitement to it too, right? Like I've heard a lot of people talk about the minute that you stop getting nervous is the minute that you should be done with whatever you're doing, because that means you don't give a shit about it. Like if you're nervous, that means you care. It means you're excited for the thing. Your adrenaline's up. And so that telltale sign, the minute you stop getting nervous, you're like, oh, okay, do I really want to do this anymore? Because if I don't care about it. So I love the fact that you still get nervous. We used to, in high school, I was in a garage band, and I remember, and I'm sure it wasn't like a healthy nervous. I remember like getting like making myself next to sick. I was so, and we played, I mean, the most we played in front of was probably 20 people at like an open mic thing. But in my mind, I'm like, all right, we're coming out like it's Carnegie Hall style, baby. We're going to, and I remember getting so nervous and hyped up over it. And I don't think I would have been a good musician as a career because I could never bring the nerves down. Like if it ever came spotlight on me, even if I was singing backup on a song, like I could barely play the guitar. My hand was just shaking so much. So I respect the fact that you guys can actually get out there and you can be nervous, but you can pull back in and rein in those nerves a little bit too.
But what people don't understand is that Justin thrives under pressure. In our very first improv show, Justin came to play. He came to play. He was given a terrible suggestion from the audience. He was sabotaged. He was the first one up. The guy delivered. So that's why Justin is special. So Justin,
you're a convenience store clerk, and your customer's a bear. Go.
It was a little worse than that.
It was the day that Nelson Mandela had died. And so we're like, can we get a suggestion from anyone, from anything? And someone goes, Nelson Mandela. And I was hosting, and I didn't know that you could say no. I was like, cool. Nelson Mandela, Justin, take it away. And it was...
And so I step up to the curtain. I'm like, oh, fuck. What do you do with this? First ever improv show that I performed at. And I was it was fun.
And he thrived.
I will say there's two things to add to that. One, the preparation you make beforehand is the most important thing to that. Like, if I have to go, I mean, the way I think about it is like, I remember back to high school or college, like presentations in front of the class. If you try to just like memorize your lines real quick, you're going to make a mistake and you're going to trip over your words and you're going to fuck it up. If you know the material inside and out, then it doesn't matter how much you practice the speaking part of it, you're going to be able to get through it. Assuming you don't clam up and puke in front of the class or something. But like, if you know the material inside and out and you're like well-versed and prepared, going up on stage you'll get over it once you start because you just know everything.
Right. Even if you don't know your lines, even if you write down a script and you try and memorize it, if you know what you're talking about, you can just start talking about it. You're like, I know what this is. I'm just going to communicate it to the class. Like, some people are obviously better communicators than others, but at the very least, you'll have something to talk about. Yes. If you trip over your words on a specific script, all you have to talk about is the rest of that script that you can't remember.
Exactly. And the other thing, performing to smaller crowds is way harder than performing to bigger crowds.
Right?
Fuck yeah.
So when you can see individual people's faces, like, and it's not a general crowd vibe, it's way harder.
Yeah.
Right.
Like obviously I'd rather play to 1,000 people than 20, but like if I can see specific people and see the gaps in the room around them, and I know when the person with the blue shirt walks out of the room or like when they look bummed, like it's way harder because you are playing to 15 people that are looking back at you and they're all thinking about you and you're thinking about them and it's just a fucking nightmare.
Right.
But when you're playing to hundreds of, I wouldn't say thousands, because I've rarely played to thousands of people, not for any of our music. When you're playing to hundreds of people and it's a sea or there's just like a crowd, you can't see when people are walking out. You just, a big chunk of people are dancing and jumping up and down or whatever. It's just, you're playing to the sea of people. So you can kind of like disassociate any particular face.
That's fascinating, because anyone who's never been on stage before, that sounds so opposite of what logic would dictate, right? Like just, oh, I have to walk out in front of 1,000 people and it's no big deal. That doesn't make any sense to me. Like 20 people has got to be way easier, but I never thought of it in the sense of you're able to pick out, you're watching, Ted walk right out the door and you're like, Ted, come back. I'm sorry.
Exactly. And like the thought of, you're being at the family like Christmas party and your mom saying like, oh, Daniel plays the drums. Why don't you play drums for us? Like, it's fucking terrifying.
Oh, that's the worst. It's like, oh, you guys do improv comedy? Tell us a joke. It's like, first of all, that's not what that is. And second of all, no, that's not what this is at all. So
it's also not like, it's not the right venue for this to happen.
Right.
In no sense. Also, I don't play the type of drums that a small group of people would want to watch in an intimate setting. Like, that's not.
You're
like,
gonna go downstairs, bring your drums, the whole drum kit up to the living room, and then
well, let me press play on my backtracks real quick. Like, it's a completely different thing.
Right.
Way harder to play to few people than it is to play to hundreds of people. Because it's a crowd. Whatever you've played, I've played to crowds before. I will play to crowds again. I don't have to know any of them. Way harder when you know the people, or they're sitting up front staring at you, and I'm like, oh, that's Kristen.
Yep.
I see her.
That's why Seattle and hometown shows and CD release shows, like big hometown shows, are usually the most nerve-wracking, because a lot of people that I am going to talk to many times after this are there watching. So
gotta love it.
Well, earlier, Doug had brought up the fact that he has this little entity that sits on his shoulder called Practical Doug. And we have a segment on the show called Ask Practical Doug, where anyone can submit a question and they can suckle on the teat of practicality, as one might say. You like
love
that, Doug? Yeah.
You know what? I'm all for it. We're going to say that moving forward. That's always going to be your spiel.
To suckle on the practical teat.
Yes, suckle on the practical teat.
Whilst listening to the intro.
You got the questions, we got the answers. All you do is ask. Practical, 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 practical. Ask Practical Doug.
Now, if you guys want to dig in deep on how we created that, got together and what our skeleton was, we can talk about that another time. That's for our Patreon if you guys want to figure that out. But,
That's off our junior album. Yeah.
junior album.
Just called Sounds of the Mind Gap. So, again, Ask Practical Doug. If you follow us on any of our socials, you can, or subscribe to Patreon, or, watch our live streams. You can submit a question on our Discord, too. We have an entire Ask Practical Doug channel dedicated to it. And if you want to know the answer to something, you can ask. Today, we're going to give you guys the chance to pick which question we ask Practical Doug. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 different questions that have been submitted. So you guys pick 1 through 6. Which one would you guys like?
I'm assuming these are in the chat.
They are not.
Oh,
We're just picking a number 1 through 6.
5.
5.
All right, number 5.
Oh boy.
So this week's Ask Practical Doug. Oh boy. This one has been submitted by our own Wolf's Lore. So thank you, Wolf, for submitting this one. Perfect choice on this one too. Okay, so Wolf wants to know, hey Doug, what's the best way to tackle overpopulation? Is it limit births, culling the population via lottery, or a purge? Do tell.
Wow.
I love this question.
What a great question.
You answer first. We want to.
So my practical side, first question is, are we really overpopulating? I've heard that our births are declining. So that unto itself may be taking care of the problem, right? So otherwise, I think the most practical way to do this, boy, I don't know, man. I'm going to a dark place. This is not good. But I remember there was a bit from Bill Burr. He's talked about this several times on his specials, but one of them was he would start with like a test that you have to essentially fill out, and if you don't get a certain grade, you just walk into the ocean. And he goes, if you look under your seats, you'll find your test. If you didn't bring a pencil, you're already out. Get in there. So, I think I don't know, man. This is really dark, but
is a loaded question.
It's a super loaded question. I kind of like the idea of a Thanos option where it's just a lottery, right? It's fair, right? Where just, yeah, 50-50 chance you come up. It's just rock, paper, scissors. If you win, you get to stay. If you lose,
flip a coin.
You got to go. And that's just...
Avery in the chat said the same thing. She said, full-blown Thanos snap that shit.
Yeah, right? It's fair, right? I think that's the end of the day. That's what it should be. It shouldn't be like, oh, we have to decide, like, oh, who gets to do this? It's no. Everyone's up for grabs if that's what it comes down to. I think Thanos is not only efficient, as he's made it clear in a lot of his stuff, but also it's fair.
He was right.
Brian Daniel, what do you guys think?
So there's here's our, okay, maybe you agree, I don't know. Here's my radical liberal solution to this problem. Mandatory vasectomies for all males with a 3-prong sperm bank mandated by the government, all in different locations. That is the solution. Anybody can, it's all free, all government paid for by our taxes. And you can choose to have a child whenever you want to, but you have to choose. No accidental births, because you have to make that decision. Everyone's shooting blanks. No unwanted pregnancies.
Wow. Interesting.
Kablamo.
You know what? I think I like both of these options. If you all have an idea which option you prefer, let us know in the comments.
Thanos snap or tiny snip? Your choice.
Amazing. That was absolutely amazing.
That is so good. Yep, absolutely. So there you go. That was Ask
Practical. We talk about taxing the rich.
We've come to the political.
I knew Practical Dan and Practical Doug would get along. This is like, I'm sitting there going, this makes perfect sense. This is great. I'm on board for this. Woo!
Oh, fantastic. Doug, do you want to jump into the last bit, or do we have anything?
I think we're ready. I think it's time. Let's do it.
All right. Look, this is off our sophomore album. This one is called the Throwdown Intro.
Welcome to the Throwdown.
And I was hoping it was actually the band Throwdown. Real angry and aggressive. Like, wow, that took a turn.
That's not what I expected.
All right, Dougie, what do we got today? Oh my gosh, absolutely.
So for all of you who don't know, the Throwdown is something that Justin and I used to plan in advance. Like, we'd figure out what it was. Well, originally Justin would just think of it on the fly. Then we started planning, and sometimes our production meetings would take forever. We spent so much time trying to figure out who would be in a Throwdown. So then we just outsourced it to our circle of elders who would, in secret, determine what these are. And we don't know what this is until the very last minute. So we are now just learning that the Throwdown this week is going to be between the Blues Brothers versus Tenacious D.
I mean, Tenacious D. I'm sorry. Like, I enjoyed the Blues Brothers movies. I've seen lots of skits. My dad was a big fan. Showed me lots of stuff. Jack Black blows them out of the water. I'm sorry.
I'm gonna have to agree on this one.
Talent and like multi-pronged actor. As an actual like singer, he is insane. Is just one of those people that is how it's unfair that you have that much talent and that everyone says he's like cool and super nice. Just like, I want to not like you because of how sick you are, but everyone likes you and I like everything you do. So just, yeah.
No, I mean, that's great. I mean, these are all great things, but who will win in a fight to the death? I mean, yeah, having acting skills and singing skills, I mean, does that protect you in a battle to the death?
I mean, are we talking about Jack Black and all the superpowers he's given himself throughout the years, or are we talking about a literal fist fight?
Ooh, well let's...
How many Blues Brothers?
There's 2.
There's only 2. Okay, so it's a fair fight.
Well, it depends. I mean, are you folding in John Goodman and Jim Belushi as well?
I would say for the sake of this matchup, let's keep it a fair fight.
Say
2v2.
say Dan Aykroyd and John Belushi, right?
John Belushi was the original, yeah.
And Jim was okay. Jim was the replacement for his brother.
Life according to him, yeah. It's his brother.
I feel like the other member of Tenacious D is his name
Kyle Gass.
Kyle.
Gass.
I feel like he's got some fucking demons. I feel like he's gonna fuck somebody up.
Oh,
I
love
think
it.
Yeah.
Avery in the
know.
chat says Tenacious D literally beat the
so.
devil. So I mean, there is that. So
I mean,
There
if we're
is that.
talking about what really is going to happen in a fight, like
mhm.
I think Dan Aykroyd, I think he's like notoriously an asshole, or was. Did he die? Is he dead?
No, he's alive.
Yeah, he's still alive.
He's alive. I think he was notoriously an asshole. This is like fourth hand here, just from internet and videos. I would guess that John Belushi would probably just have a gun and just shoot them, and it would he would say, "Well, okay, you're dead. Sorry."
Indiana
Fight
Jones
over.
style, just bam, bam.
Yep, exactly.
As they get out their guitars, they're like playing an intro song like Bards and D&D, and they're just like jazzing themselves up, and he just bam, bam.
Yeah. Fight over.
I feel like let's not forget though that the Blues Brothers were on a mission from God, right? So they've got that orphanage they were trying to save and the good Lord on their side. So it's basically God versus devil, right? Between the two, the Blues Brothers, and then the Tenacious D always went the way of El Diablo. So really, it's good versus evil in this one.
I feel like Jim Belushi's a wild card. Like that guy. I mean, I don't know.
Jim?
I don't know.
John.
Whatever one was the better one? Question mark.
John,
I don't know.
100%.
Sorry, John. Yeah, John. That guy is. I mean, I feel like he's super unpredictable. And I think Dan Aykroyd is predictable. But then you kind of going on the other side, you've got Jack Black, who is a jack of all trades. He's very versatile, so I feel like he could adapt to any situation. And I feel like the better team is Tenacious D. I feel like those two would work more in tandem. Like, I can imagine they have planned what to do in the event that they face off with another duo.
Specifically, the Blues Brothers.
Exactly.
Specifically them.
They've
yes.
already planned this fight.
It's like, if this happens, and they're like, what do you mean? They're like, anything's possible in the universe. Anything's possible.
Part of band practice is practicing the songs, and then part of band practice is fighting Blues Brothers in their head.
Yes. I feel like they planned for it. And it may not go according to plan, but they're more prepared, and they are a better team, the two of them,
Yes.
than the Blues Brothers. So I think that gives them the edge. I think that gives them the victory.
Glad we can agree.
I
on
agree. And as long as they have the metal in their heart, I feel like that goes a long way.
Yeah, I agree.
So we're unanimous in the decision, I believe.
Yes.
Yes.
All
that.
right.
So,
It's official. They won. Woo! Well, that was excellent. That was cool. That was efficient. This was such an amazing. We appreciate you, Brian and Daniel, for hanging out with us. This is so great. This is the part of the show where we do recommendations. So if you are listening to something, watching something, reading something, anything you got personally going on, I don't know, maybe a tour, an album, who knows, but anything you'd like to recommend to anyone that's watching or listening, the floor is yours.
recommendations like any music I'm fucking with lately?
Yeah, any music you're listening to.
movies,
If there's a
books,
movie you
yeah.
saw, if there's a show on Netflix where you're like, oh man, people got to watch this or whatever, anything you got, by all means.
Oh, I'm sure Dan could guess exactly what I'm about to say because I don't shut up about it. But there's a couple of R&B artists that I've been in love with lately,
Okay.
and one of them is named Lucky Day. He's insane.
Just put out a song with Alicia
He
Keys.
did well. Alicia Keys just put out a song with
Oh.
him. I should probably.
Okay, yeah, that's the way that goes.
There's another artist named Victoria Monet that I've been really into lately. So everybody listening to this is going to come here for rock music, and they're going to be like, I don't fuck with that. I listen to like R&B, chill hop, and pop music. So, and then there's an artist called Sleepy Fish that I really like. It's
I
very-
love Sleepy Fish.
No fucking way.
I fucking love Sleepy Fish. I listen to Chill Hop all the time. And
Yeah.
when my wife will listen while she's reading, I come down, I'm like, you listen to Sleepy Fish? She goes, I don't know. They all just kind of, I'm like, that's Sleepy Fish. I love them. They're so good.
That is so funny. Sleepy Fish is definitely. I listen to Chill Hop all the time too, and Sleepy Fish is definitely one of my tops. There's a couple other artists, some that kind of got me into the genre. There was one called Bureaucratic. I don't know if you ever heard of him.
I don't think I've heard of that.
He's a little more. He doesn't quite get as much on many of those playlists as some of the other artists because his it's much more groovy and a lot of real instruments involved. And I saw him live, and he I called it Bureaucratic. I think he probably says bureaucratic, but I don't say that because people might spell out the word bureaucratic. So he played, but I didn't know what to expect. Like if he was just going to be a dude behind a DJ table, and it was a dude behind a DJ table, but he also had a bass in his hand and he was shredding.
Whoa,
so that was very sick.
That's so cool.
I would love to see him bring a live drummer next time, but either way, yeah, Bureaucratic, Sleepy Fish is another really good one. There's a bunch. There's one called ASO that's really good. There's one called Middle School that's really good. There's so fucking many.
That's awesome.
Chill Hop's an amazing genre, and it's severely underrated. I think people lump it into the meme of, chill hop beats to study to.
Yes.
Lo-fi beats. Yeah, exactly.
It's
and
so good.
I think when a lot of people hear it, they just like, oh yeah, that's just the lo-fi beats to study to. And I'm like, dude, these are some of the coolest arrangements, like chord-wise, I've ever fucking heard in my whole life.
They're so good. And I've actually seen, I think it was Pure Noise Records did like some lo-fi chill hop versions of some of the artists' stuff. And I'm like, I'll listen to this. I saw comments like, oh, this is a bullshit. I can't believe they're doing this. I'm like, I think it's pretty cool. Like, I think it's pretty neat.
I think had a couple songs on that.
Yeah, it was so cool.
Knocked Loose did too.
Knocked Loose did?
Yeah, I haven't listened to it.
What? How do you even do that?
It's amazing. It's so good.
I would love, actually, so you know what's funny? Another Night Alone with You is definitely inspired by Chill Hop.
No kidding.
Yeah, the song totally is.
All right, well, you heard it here. That's amazing.
There will be another one on the next album.
That's amazing.
I've already started writing it.
And now we too.
That's fantastic. Daniel, what do you got?
Okay, artists that I've been listening to a lot lately that are very good. I love the new Structures EP, the new Humanity's Last Breath record. The new Volumes, I think, is the best they've done in a while. The new, or I guess the only Nightlife EP. Highly recommend checking out Nightlife. And a local, or I guess kind of local, a Washington rapper called Django. Just saw him at a festival in Seattle, and kid is fucking sick and about to be going places. Also, our bassist just turned me on to an artist called Ash Nico that I've been all about.
Very TikTok artist, but it's pretty cool.
Very TikTok. I love it.
What does that mean, very TikTok?
Like it blew up on TikTok.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
Very, very Gen Z music for sure.
Cool.
And check out our new record, Slow Bloom.
Hell yeah, and check out their tour.
Next February with This Wildlife and Broadside.
Awesome.
So come on out.
Very cool. Justin, what do you got this week?
So I had been wanting to get around to this movie for a while, and because of our esteemed guest, I decided to watch it this week to make sure that I could recommend it. But you need to check out The Sound of Metal, the movie, Amazon Prime. It's streaming on there.
Drummer ear guy.
Absolutely, thing. Yeah. Riz Ahmed, and it's an incredible movie. Wonderful storytelling and insane acting, but from a sound design perspective, to hear the director take you through going deaf and then living with that and then kind of juxtaposing what everyone else is here. Like it's absolutely stunning from a music standpoint to a filmmaking standpoint. Highly, highly recommend that. So check out The Sound of Metal.
That's cool.
Really quick. I know this is such a pedestrian answer, but as far as sound design goes, I just saw Dune in the theater. Oh, that shit was fucking tight.
Yes,
man.
Yes.
Anyways,
that's the one thing I saw that I watched it at my home. I would have loved to have heard that like in the theater. I bet that would have been pretty awesome.
I was listening. Oh man,
it would probably be sick to listen with your with the new IEMs.
Yeah, that would be tight. Hans Zimmer had an interview that he basically said they didn't know that movie was going straight to streaming. In fact, most people didn't know.
Oh, yeah.
Because it was a last minute decision.
Yeah.
To go straight to streaming. And he was mad.
I bet.
Because he was like, hold on. We always do it in order. We do theater, and I did sound design it for theater, and then we'd put it to streaming, and I have a whole time period afterwards where I sound design it for streaming, and they just took my sound design for theater and put it to streaming, and that's not how it works. He's like, I would have changed so much about how I designed that if that was the case. And so that's what made me say, I don't usually go to movie theaters, but that's what made me say, I gotta go see it in theaters. So that,
Love that.
Yeah.
I love Hans Zimmer. He's hands down like my favorite like composer. He does such cool stuff all the time, and he is, as he probably should be, is a huge nerd about sound design. Like that's his thing. So that's something I didn't consider when it comes to like, oh, we're going straight to streaming. I bet he flipped his shit.
Well, not only that, he's a giant nerd when it comes to Dune too.
Yeah.
He turned down scoring Tenet so he could score this.
Yeah. Yeah, very cool. So go check out Dune in theaters and hear the soundtrack there. It's way better, I bet.
Doug, what do you got?
I binge watched the Witcher season 2 this weekend, and I enjoyed it. Is it perfect? No. A little confusing? Sure. But it was really cool. I really enjoyed it. I love that world. I love what they did with it. I really enjoyed season 1, so I totally think it's worth a watch. I think there's only 8 or 9 episodes, so it seems like that's the trend now. Used to be like 13 episodes, and it's like everything's whittling down. Hawkeye's only got 6 episodes. That comes out soon. Can't wait to see that. But Witcher season 2, I recommend it. Watch it. We can talk about it. It'll be good.
There you go.
That being said, Brian and Daniel, one last time, where can people find you? Where can they find all of the good stuff about the home team?
On Instagram, we are at the home team. Twitter, at the home team NW. You can find our 2 records on Spotify. Just search the home team. You'll find us. Check out our new records, Slow Bloom. And if you really want to help the band, join our Patreon. It's just patreon.com/the home team.
That's amazing. That's so cool. And judging from what I've seen from the chat, their Patreon folks are awesome. So go join the squad.
If nothing else, persistent.
You can find Mind Gap on all social medias at Mind Gap Podcast. You can also check us out live on YouTube Tuesday nights at 8 p.m. Central for the podcast, Saturday nights at 8 p.m. Central for the video game live streams. And also, if you'd like to support us, check out our Patreon as well, patreon.com/MindGapPodcast. You can also find Justin on the internet realm as well.
On Instagram and Twitter at Justin_Michael, spelled Mikel. It's the fun way of spelling it. And while you're in the online realm, check us out on Spotify, Stitcher, Apple Podcast, Amazon Music, all the places. Where do you listen to podcasts? You can find us there. Subscribe to us, review us, rate us, all those things. The big thing we ask is to share us around. If you like an episode that you hear, just copy the link, send it to someone and say, hey, these guys are idiots. I think you'd laugh, and send it to them. Then 2east8th.com/mindgap, and then just keep an eye on all of 2east8th's stuff. We've got, I'm blanking on the name of our projects. We've got The Life and Death of a Liberal Arts Major should be coming out early next year, and we are moving into hardcore pre-production on Love and Improv, which is going to be our first feature film shooting next year. So keep an eye on all the updates.
Amazing. Once again, Brian and Daniel, thank you so much for taking the time out to hang out with us. This was wonderful. You all are welcome back anytime. We love chatting with you. I wish we had more time to just keep talking. It'd be so much fun.
Thank you all for having us.
Absolutely. And with that, I'll say, Justin, thank you.
Douglas, thank you.
Chat, thank you.
Listeners, thank you.
And you all have a dandy fucking week.
Mind Gap Podcast.